we always do the good shit when we're not even live. Welcome in. We are live right now on the Believe in Monsters podcast. Another week. The regular season finally over. The painful regular season finally over, but we can celebrate. Welcome in to the Believe in Monsters podcast. Another week. You can find us all on the Twitter machine at BIM_pod. I'm sorry I missed last week. A little Alabama basketball duty. The Crimson Tide taking care of business. But I'm back, and thank you, Lucas and Chris Krogman, for holding down the fort. You guys are the lifeblood of the podcast. And follow Chris Krogman at ShyBears1985 and Lucas at LBerry_40. We're going to have a good day because Ryan Poles met with the media, talked about the end of the year. We're going to wrap up the end of the year in a big old bow and look forward to an exciting offseason. Oh, my God. The possibilities are endless. You can go endless directions in the offseason, and that is so exciting. Like, if you are a Bears fan, now's the time to get back in tune with what's going on because we're about to be the talk of the league. Like, literally, we are about to lead all the headlines in the offseason because of all the assets that we've acquired. Thank you, Lord Poles. And we're about to get into it tonight on the Believe in Monsters podcast. Chris Krogman, what's going on? How you doing tonight?
I'm beyond excited to see you boys tonight. Joseph Gaither, happy to have you back. We missed you so much last week. The show just does not have the same energy without your amazing MC skills up on the mic. So happy to have you back, sir. End of the season. We are going to probably not be the talk of the town for the next couple of months, but that's okay. We'll wait until March 1st when the league. Yeah, after the Super Bowl. Once the new league starts, the Bears are on the clock. But yeah, super pumped. What a day. What an ending to the year. We'll get into it. Lucas Berry, my fine friend, you beautiful bearded bastard with your espresso martini. How are you tonight, friend?
I'm feeling in a fancy mood, man. I mean, we waited all season for this season to end, basically, once we got to the ginormous losing streak. And now we are 3-14, and we somehow managed the number one pick. We had the Texans lose or win. They beat the Colts. Texans won on a miracle at the end of the game. And also Denver lost. So we'll talk about those implications later. But this week has me feeling great. The Bears did what they had to do and lose. We got to see Tim Boyle or Tom Boyle or whatever that guy's name is come out and play some snaps for no reason. Awesome. Just an awesome week if you're a Bears fan. I mean, there's a lot to be excited about. Obviously, we don't like losing, but if you're going to lose, this is the way to do it.
I think it's hard boil or water boil.
Whatever it was. What's funny about that play he threw the pick is he had Claypool. Claypool absolutely cooked his dude, and he would have had a huge touchdown on that play if he actually threw it to him. But
can you imagine if the Bears somehow had won that game and then Texans lost in that fashion?
I was watching the game, dude. It was hilarious. Like they just took Peterman out randomly. He was fully healthy. They're just like, you're out. You're playing too well. You completed 2 passes, and they put in the other guy, and he throws a pick immediately.
Well, you don't want Nate Peterman, QB3, to get hurt.
Got to keep him healthy, man. You got to save that arm for the offseason.
There was somebody, man, we'll get into the presser a little bit, but you missed one big joyous occasion for Sunday, Lucas, where the Sunday night football game ended triumphantly with the Detroit Lions knocking the Cheeseheads out of the playoffs.
They both missed the playoffs. It's even better.
And now they're both out of the playoffs. And the only representation from the North is the Vikings, who could very well lose to the Giants in the first round. Vikings are trash. They're so overrated.
Joe, I think you're muted over there or something. I can't hear you.
Oh, he's just excited.
Yep. I apologize. Biggest frauds in the playoffs.
Yeah. So where do you guys want to start? I mean, I guess we could start with a little bit of like the
laughing at Quay Walker. First off, how in the world are you going to be a Green Bay Packer and a Georgia Bulldog? And how in the world are you going to get kicked out of not one but 2 games? And the second game you're going to get kicked out of cost your team a chance at the playoffs. And why do you get kicked out? Because you're shoving a first responder. A first responder 7 days after a first responder saved one of your brothers on the field. You fucking idiot! I love it. Sorry.
Yeah, we know Quay Walker's an idiot. Yeah, he went to Georgia. No, I'm just kidding. We love our Georgia Bulldogs. So, yeah, yeah.
He's
So,
a
Joe,
national
you actually bring up a very good talking point actually that we can start with. So Damar Hamlin out of the hospital. Or being transported to Buffalo at the very least. I don't know if he's actually released from the hospital yet, but off the ventilator, awake, watched the game on Sunday, got to see Buffalo start the game with a kickoff return. So awesome. You know,
Saw two of those.
How about that? You know, for all the believers out there, prayer works. Damar Hamlin,
amen.
You know, we love you here on BIM. So glad that you're doing well. Buffalo also announced that they would fully guarantee his contract, even though part of his contract was not fully guaranteed if he went on IR, and they did put him on IR, but he is fully guaranteed. So that's awesome. But you know, by the Bills, which, man, Bills are such a classy organization. You knew they'd do right by him. So that's all good. That's all great. Yeah, Quay Walker, whatever. Who cares? Packers lose. That's great.
I just wanted to dig at the Packers. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Thank you for indulging me. Thank you.
No problem.
Is that Rodgers' last dance?
Oh man, interesting. Hope so.
That's a good question. I mean,
I honestly hope they have to keep him for the next 2 years and just pay him that money.
Well, like, the funny thing is like if he retires, it's like $39 million in dead cap space.
Mm-hmm. I think it's more than that, dude. It's a lot.
Well, whatever.
It's a ton.
Does it really matter if it's 39 or 43? I mean, it's a lot of money.
It's right in that range, yeah. But and that's going to hurt them really badly. Telling Jameson Williams, no, I'm going to keep this one on that jersey, citing a lot of speculation that maybe, hopefully, it's his last game in Green Bay. That'll be so awesome if it is. We're going to get together and have a big old Bears party the day that he retires and or moves to a new organization.
He's irrelevant to me now. After this season, he's dead to me.
Sounds good.
He's not very good, so it doesn't scare me anymore. Not very good in the sense of compared to what he used to be.
Fair.
Now it's like now even though he's still a good quarterback, it's like he's nothing. He's not the Aaron Rodgers of old.
Fair.
But he's still pretty good.
Facts.
So that's good. They're out of the playoffs. He might be done. Awesome news for the Bears on the horizon when you look at 2023 and 2024, and that's really where we're at right now.
Also, by the way, Chris, the dead cap on his contract is $99 million. Oh, 2023.
God. Yeah, it's like 40 the first year, but it's a lot over time.
But I think if he retires, it's only.
Well, I don't remember
how
situation with Kyle Long where we had to pay him his full contract when he retired.
Right. So I think it's like for next year it's 40 something. So basically split that in half, I guess.
Yeah, the dead cap in 2024 goes to 24 million, down from 99.
Crazy.
Oh my God. That's going to be awesome. It's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Doesn't matter.
Who cares? Yeah. Let's not speculate on that.
What do we think of the Navy on Navy uniforms the Bears were wearing this past week?
Yes, they should have worn them earlier in the season.
I love those.
Love them. Blue on blues.
They are beautiful.
Awesome. Fantastic. Yeah.
When was the last time they wore those?
The 80s, maybe? I don't know.
I feel like we had a game recently.
We did a Color Rush game, right? They kind of done that for Color Rush, Navy on Navy. I do love it. It's a great look.
I mean, the game was just kind of a throwaway game. We knew the Bears were trying to lose. That was obvious. They were trying to lose when they brought in Boyle to bench Peterman. He wasn't even playing well. I mean, do you guys have any takeaways? The only takeaway I have at all is I was actually surprised the Bears defense came out as fiery as they did. A lot of those backups seemed like they really wanted to play at first. I mean, it was a 10-point game at the end of the first half. And Velus Jones had an awesome game. I mean, we can't deny that. That definitely left, and Cole Kmet, those two left a good taste in our mouth from, to end the season here.
I think you've seen. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I agree. I think Jonathan Vilma had a couple hilarious comments, but one thing he did say is that it didn't look like they were trying to lose. It looked like they were trying hard. But do with the talent level on that team and with switching
It
the
didn't matter.
quarterback out. Yeah, it didn't matter. So go ahead, Joe.
It was backups across the board. I mean, from the offensive line all over. Besides the running backs, pretty much it felt like in Brisker. But
I think if you look at the overall kind of picture of Velus Jones, we kind of have to be honest with ourselves that he was a ghost through the first 8-9 weeks or so, but he really did get 2 to 3% more every week. So that can only mean,
and he's been awesome as a kick returner. He's
Right,
been a
right.
plus kick returner for sure.
So you hope that 2 to 3% more carries through the off season, and maybe he can carve himself out a role next year, and maybe we can look at that 3rd round pick and say, yeah, we got a lot out of it. Right now, I still think he leaves a lot to be desired, but I don't like to judge and look at anybody based off their rookie. He wasn't bad enough to judge him off his rookie year.
Right.
So I like the progression that we.
I still think at the very least you'll have a solid kick returner in him for the life of his rookie contract or whatever. Which, people could say this or that about returners, but the dude does. He brings the ball out past the 25 more often than not, which is better than a lot of returners you could say in the league. And then obviously that run, we saw how explosive he can be. I mean, that was sick. And the catch too, dude. The contested catch.
He had a catch early. He had him
tangled up. It was a flag, but he fought through and still made the catch. I mean, good signs there. Good signs.
Most definitely. We had that. He had that deep ball from Justin a week or two ago. He's only had 2 real solid deep shot opportunities. He caught one, dropped the other, hit him in the hands. I mean, he hopefully can improve that stuff. Hopefully can, continue to be utilized as a weapon on offense. And like you said, Lucas, he is a good kick returner. He actually utilizes the speed that he has, unlike what's the running back's name that doesn't know how to use the speed that they took in the 6th round or whatever?
Ebner.
Yeah, that guy. Ebner. No clue what he's doing. But Herbert had some decent carries. It was nice to see him get some work.
He continually looks better than Montgomery. I mean, I hate to say it, but I don't know how. Polls spoke highly of Montgomery today, but just from a system fit, I don't know if Montgomery's the guy they want. I mean, it's just clear as day that Herbert's a way better runner, in my opinion, and we've seen that the past few weeks.
There's nothing wrong with having both of them, though. If it works, obviously.
No, I just think that Montgomery is kind of having a down year. If you look at his numbers, I feel like he's not nearly getting as many yards per carry, and I don't know. I just think for what the Bears offense wants to do and the coaches they have, I feel like they're going to try and get a more explosive running back. But that is a conversation we'll have as we get deeper into this offseason.
He spoke highly of him today, but he also made a huge caveat and said, kind of like, we're going to have to agree on a salary number. Like, we want him back, but it's going to have to work. So he didn't promise to have it back.
Right. No. He said, it just goes to show you, no matter how much you love a player, it doesn't necessarily matter. But that he Montgomery embodies what they want out of players and out of running backs. So
yeah, I think he always gives 110%. But I think Luke is right. I think he wasn't as effective this year. I think he was a little hampered by a couple more nagging injuries that he tried to work through. But I'm with Luke. He wasn't as explosive this year. But to speak to what we embody as for the Bears, he did give 110% almost every time he was out there. Great pass blocker, great pass pro.
I mean, so as we talk about this too, I mean, I think it's fair to look at the system that Luke Getsy comes from. And people have pointed this out on social media, but the Shanahan tree, obviously they go out and get McCaffrey. They have an explosive running back every year. The Packers, they paid huge amounts of money to Dillon and the other running back, Aaron Jones they have.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this offense is pretty conducive to explosive running backs and that they will get rewarded if it's the right one. So it would not shock me at all to see the Bears go out and spend decent money on one of these prize free agent running backs this offseason, whether we agree with it or not.
The surprising thing to me is, like, if you look back at the original Shanahan offense, with Mike Shanahan, this offense essentially made anybody famous. Terrell Davis was a 6th round pick. He became a Hall of Famer in this offense. You had two just no-name dudes come in after Davis and just rack up 1,000-yard seasons. So, I mean, I don't think you need to go out and pay these dudes big money in this system to be successful. Would I enjoy a weapon like Saquon Barkley? Sure. Tony Pollard would be a great fit. Yeah, but honestly, I don't see Pollard getting out of there, and I don't really feel good about paying Saquon.
I like Josh Jacobs. I think Josh Jacobs could be a nice fit.
Sure.
Oh man, that'd be a lot of fun.
He's
a fighter too. He'll give you. He's a fighter too. He'll give you all you want, and I can see it. He's very smooth. He's kind of a zone running back. He likes to get to the edge.
I mean,
I can see
he's kind of very similar to Montgomery, except he's got that second gear to him.
Yes.
I mean, he's like a faster Montgomery. That's why he was a first-round pick, and Montgomery was a third-round pick. But honestly, very kind of similar player in my opinion. But anyway, I mean, you got to do what's going to be best for your offense. So whether we agree with it or not, I do think running back in this offense is probably more important than you might see other offenses. But before we go too far down this rabbit hole, I mean, do you guys have anything else from this game? So then I think we should talk about the other game that went on simultaneously with the Bears that awarded us the number one pick.
No, give us the Houston take.
I mean, Chris, were you guys watching both games at once? I was paying more attention to this Texans game than I was the Bears game, honestly, in the second half.
So the red zone wasn't covering it, which was driving me bonkers.
Yes, I turned that off. I just put on that game.
Yeah, so I was switching off the Bears game onto red zone, and then every time the Texans would take a lead, I would take breathe a little bit easier. And then the only red zone highlight was oh, sorry, Bears fans, Indianapolis just took the lead. And I was like, you son of a bitch, Chris Hansen, shut up, bro. I don't need your negativity.
The Texans were up by 2 scores. I think it was 10 points or something in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And then Davis Mills threw 2 terrible interceptions where he was throwing the ball down the field. And I think I texted you at that point, Chris. I was like, the Texans are just they're throwing this game. Mills is just throwing the ball up in triple coverage. The Colts score. The Texans get the ball back with 2 minutes. Of course, they drive down the field. They catch 2 improbable. One guy, Chris Moore, I think, made an insane, or Brandon Cooks made an insane play or something.
Yeah,
fourth and long.
Cooks long. Cooks 4th and 13 down the sideline, triple toe tap was nuts.
That was insane. And it was Davis Mills threw that, and it was a perfect ball. And then the Texans were 4th and 20 in the red zone. And of course, Mills throws a Hail Mary touchdown that somehow goes through the Colts defender's hands. And then to top it off, they go for 2.
Yeah, and they get that. But the funny thing to me about Mills' throw, and as I'm watching it live,
it should have been.
He's running backwards. He's just
rolling out to his right,
hucking it up. It was terrible mechanics, terrible prayer type throw. But Mills has a big arm. He's a big dude, and he just chucked it up and somehow cleared the last Indy defender right into was it Jordan Atkinson or what's that
something like that? Yeah, Atkins,
whatever. Anyway, names of random tight ends that caught touchdowns that gave the Bears the number 1 overall pick. Which
and then the 2-point conversion, which just
he bobbled it too. On the replay I watched, he bobbled it and caught it with his knees, and then he just threw it up in the air. What amazing!
I don't know. After they scored that touchdown, I had a feeling they were going to get the 2. I was like, all right, this is this is
meant
just
to
going to
be.
happen. It's meant to be. Yeah, I just had a feeling. It seemed like it wasn't nearly as thrilling as the that 4th and 20 play where Mills was being chased from behind. It kind of just happened, and they got it, and they won. And a lot of people thought the Texans would throw that game, and Lovie Smith won, and he got fired shortly after. I feel like he was fired before that, and that he just wanted to say F you to the Texans, honestly.
Well, he kind of knew his fate. It was pretty public. It was pretty. I don't know how public it was, but it's pretty common sentiment that he was going to get fired, considering how poorly.
Which is dumb. Which is dumb, though. I mean, they hired the dude last year, and they expected him to really turn it around that fast.
Right.
ridiculous.
Two 1 year coaches. David Cawley 1 year, and now Lovie Smith 1 year. And you shouldn't do my man Lovie wrong that way. Matt
and they were both.
Eberflus, if there's any way you can bring him on as senior assistant, come on, bring Lovie home somehow, some way.
Fire Alan Williams and make him the DC.
I don't think
Imagine that.
I don't think Alan Williams is getting fired. I don't know how much.
Neither do I, but I would do it if Lovey was available. But
I mean, I don't know how
Flus's
much.
boy.
Man, I just don't. Has that ever happened where a coach was the head coach of a team and then came back later as a fucking assistant?
I have no
That
idea.
feels like bad face. I don't know, for everybody.
Well, it's been like 10 years now.
So
It's a distant.
I mean,
memory,
it's like,
Chris.
listen, like if you no, it's never happening, no matter what.
All right.
So, the Bears got the number one pick.
The other side caveat, 1 second, we'll get there, is what the fuck are the Texans going to do? Like, who's going to want that job? Like,
Nobody.
Nobody's going to want this job. The ownership is so dumb, dude. Firing coaches like after 1 year, and what are you doing? What are you doing?
You're right. I have no idea who would want that job. Like, that's just a bad situation to walk into. Especially if you don't have the number one pick, which might go to, which just going to go to some other team, maybe in your division.
I mean, you can get the number one pick if you want it. I mean, it might cost you the second and the 12th and your second rounder. You could have it, and I'd be willing to do that. I don't know about you guys, but Bears with the first time ever in my lifetime I've seen Bears with the number one pick. I think somebody.
And you're the old one on the podcast,
right? That's the running joke. So I think somebody in our chat said the Bears had the number one pick twice in the 40s, which there probably was like 8 teams. So maybe they just rotated it every few years.
And that was back when those guys had like second jobs in addition to playing in the NFL.
Right.
I'm pretty sure the guy they took first overall played for like one season. He was like a running back, and he played for like 1 year and then retired.
Are you sure they didn't take old Sid Luckman?
No, it wasn't Luckman.
Then he went.
It was some running back.
Yeah,
exactly.
Groceries after that.
Made more money doing that.
So yeah, highest pick the Bears have had was 3 and 4.
Mitch was the highest. I remember.
Yeah, but they traded up for that. But that started as 3.
Cedric
right?
Benson.
Right, which was 4.
Benson was 4. I thought he was 3. That's all right.
And then they had one the year they took
Benson,
Grossman and Haynes. They had like 4 or 5, and they traded.
Wasn't Grossman
back.
like the 18th pick?
Yeah, but they traded back. They had like the 4th overall pick, and I think they traded back to get 2 firsts from the Jets, I believe. I could be wrong, but that's what I think they did.
Yeah,
anyway, number 1.
Yes.
Jalen Carter, we want to pencil it in now, or Will Anderson, or you guys think we should take, maybe we take CJ Stroud. He played really well in that whole game.
There's so many possibilities. It's insane. There's unimaginable things you could do with the number one pick. And obviously, first and foremost, we have people talking about, will the Bears draft another quarterback? Which in my opinion makes absolutely no sense. Whether you believe in Fields or not, I think he deserves another year. I mean, can we agree on that?
Sure. Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
I get it. If Ryan Poles wants to say, hey, we need to scout these quarterbacks and see where they stack up with Justin. But at the end of the day, if you trade back and get picks next year, you're going to have a better team around a new quarterback if you were to go that route if Justin just completely sucked in 2023, which I don't believe will be the case. But bringing in a new quarterback this year doesn't make any sense, in my opinion, at all.
The other reason to scout these quarterbacks is to understand the value that you have in the number one.
Correct.
Right? So if you go scout Bryce Young and you go scout CJ Stroud and Will Levis and whatnot, and you come back and you're like, man, I wouldn't trade very much to come up and get these guys, then maybe you kind of understand your market a little bit better. Or on the flip side, if you're like, man, Bryce Young versus Justin Fields is a decent conversation, but to your point, Lucas, it's kind of stupid if it is that close, don't burn an asset you already have and lose out on the opportunity to surround him with a boatload of talent moving forward. So, Justin Fields plus a bunch of assets or just Bryce Young, I think is how you have to look at it.
Right.
So then, Bryce Young is very good, and you can say, hey, look, Houston, or hey, look, Indianapolis. This is the dude. This is a dude. You want this dude, it's going to cost you. And apparently somebody at the Indianapolis Star had mentioned a potential trade, and they didn't have their head up their ass like a lot of these fans do, and said the 4th overall pick, 2nd round pick, and a first next year. I think that's a good starting place.
We also need to have this conversation. After that Texans game, not only did the Bears get the first pick in the draft, and the Texans went to 2, the Denver Broncos beat the LA Chargers, which moved them back to 5th, which is Seattle's pick now. But the Colts moved up into 4, which I think is a monumental development in this, just because the Bears could possibly move back with the Colts, who are QB needy team, and the Texans are in their division, so it gives them the chance to jump their division rival by losing that game. But also the Bears sitting at 4 gives them the chance. If you think quarterback, Stroud and Young are top 4 picks, the Bears are going to have Anderson or Carter fall right into their lap at 4
or
if they decide to do that.
You could have all 3 go 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, and then have Carter or Anderson at your disposal. And have
that's what I'm saying.
Or Levis or whatever that other guy's name is.
Or set yourself up to trade back again. So whatever the Bears do, it'll be really hard to mess this up. I just think they need to trade back at least once.
I think the most fun I would have if I was Ryan Poles is pitting the Colts against the Texans or the Texans against the Colts, because I think the Texans have more to offer.
They do.
They have 2, 12. They have obviously early second, which could replenish the Claypool deal. They have a first next year of their own and Cleveland's first next year. They have like the mother load if you want to get it.
So you're right. Depending on how bad Houston would want to move up, it depends though, just because I think the value of them actually moving from 1 to 2 without the inflation of them possibly losing out the quarterback for the division rival. I think if they were just to move up, the value of that's probably a 2nd round pick, if we're being honest. It'd be very interesting to see if Poles could squeeze a 1 at them. That would be absolutely insane.
And like value and that's what I was trying to express earlier. Is it's not just about value,
right? I'm just saying, in a fair trade, I would say probably a 2nd round pick would be fair to move up 1 spot.
Well, so Bears gave up what 2 2/3 and a 4th to move up from 3 to 2.
Was it 3 to 2 or 4 to 2?
It was 3 to 2.
Well, anyway, yeah. So, but I think the Houston Texans 2nd, which is basically, the 34th pick in the draft, is probably about equal value to that or close. Maybe throw in a later pick, but I definitely don't think it's a 1 for sure. But you're right, man. I think depending on how bad the bidding war is and how much they like one of these quarterbacks, you're right. It could go up to that high. But it just depends on their evaluation, really, of the quarterback. Joe, you're muted again.
But you got to put it out there. All the stuff about the mock drafts that you're seeing on the Pro Football Network and stuff, a lot of that value that you're seeing is unrealistic.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. I think a 2nd and some change is probably a realistic value for that. But at the end of the day, it just comes down to however their GM views these quarterbacks.
Well, do you guys think that any of these quarterbacks are that special? Because I think CJ and Bryce are.
I think they're very good.
I don't think they're that much thing different than Justin. For us was the bowl games going as well as they did for both players, especially Bryce.
Mm-hmm. Joe, to answer your question, if Caleb Williams was in this draft this year, I would probably have a completely different answer to you about Justin Fields and possibly trading him, because I would probably do that. If a team wanted Fields and I could draft Caleb Williams, I would probably do that. In this year's draft, though, with these 2 guys, I would not do that.
Caleb
I'm just saying, I'm putting it out there.
I agree.
If he was in this draft, that's the type of player I would say, okay, we seriously need to consider doing this.
Yeah, I agree.
But that's the exception.
I think he's seriously. But my concern with Caleb Williams, he's not the assassin that Justin Fields is between the ears. He's a little bit aloof, but his physical talent and his ability between the white lines is really, 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 really high.
Well, I'm
Really
just leaving a hypothetical out there for people
Yeah,
who are
yeah.
like, well, the Bears should never consider this. Well, if he was in this draft class, I would probably consider it for sure. But with
So
these
is
two
he-
guys, I don't think they're too much different off Justin Fields.
Is he head and shoulders above May?
To me, yes.
They're both ridiculous. I think they would. If May was in this class, he'd probably be QB1 too. My
QB
opinion.
one also, or QB 1 or 2, with Caleb being the other one.
No,
or
no,
two?
I'm saying if Drake May was in this class, he'd probably be
Oh.
quarterback 1, in my opinion.
Gotcha.
I think next year's class is ridiculous, but that's besides the point.
Well, the funny thing to me also is where some of these QB experts are putting Justin Fields in this draft class, like putting
Yeah.
him behind CJ Stroud and Bryce Young makes me wonder, like, if those two aren't worth, moving mountains for to come up and get him. Because I think Justin Fields would be QB1 in this draft. I mean,
I think it would be very close, in my opinion. Very, very close.
yeah, well, like we said, it's not just about QB1, it's about everything else. You already have Justin Fields and the number 1 pick. If you took Bryce Young, then you have Bryce Young and Justin Fields, and then what the fuck do you have? Literally nothing.
I guess the fact of the matter is that we have Justin here. He knows the system. He's shown you that he's at least an elite athlete. I mean, let's just say Justin Fields never progressed as a passer, and he was basically the next Cam Newton. Would you be mad at that?
Cam Newton, the Panthers
Absolutely
to the
not.
Super Bowl.
That's exactly
So-
my point, Joe. So at the end of the day, if we say Fields just stays the elite athlete and he sucks at passing or whatever, which I don't think is true, I mean, you'd still have an incredible talent regardless.
He's
Well,
made
let's
some
talk
pretty-
about-
he made some pretty special throws this year, though.
Absolutely. I don't know where the narrative that he can't throw comes from. It's just people just look
You-
at the stats, the passing yards, and
You
everything
want
else.
the consistency to be a little bit higher, but it's going to come.
Sorry, Chris, we cut you off twice.
Well, let's talk about what Ryan Poles said about Justin today. He said he'd have to be blown away by a quarterback in this draft to move on from Justin, and that he wanted him to be the QB for next year. And obviously, he said they'll do their due diligence. But then moving on from that, they asked Poles what group he would want to address first, or what the most important priority was when it comes to this team with a lot of holes, and
Edge rusher.
he acknowledged it was a lot of holes. He said edge rusher, offensive line, and cornerback, but he also said that he liked Braxton Jones a lot, and Tevin, which I think we all kind of
And Cole.
agreed. We're talking, man, just it's the Lucas Berry podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey,
He's gonna take it
Krogman,
from here.
I was following you. You were talking about the offensive lineman because that was the position that he said was important. I was putting 2 and 2 together with you. Krogman can continue.
I'm just throwing in Joe's face. I'm sorry.
Father.
Yes, sir.
Welcome to Dead Air, ladies and gentlemen, on the Believe in Monsters podcast. Chris Krogman is collecting his thoughts, but trying not to kill Lucas Berry through the screen. Krogman, you were talking about the offensive line and the needs and what Ryan Poles said about Braxton Jones, liking what he saw, but needing a little more, and complimenting Tevin Jenkins' transition from tackle to guard, saying it was fun to see.
Really, what the point of that section of the press conference was not addressing tight end or Cole Kmet. Yes, he did praise Cole Kmet when talking about blue chippers on the roster, but when addressing the priorities of the team, it was pass rusher, offensive line, and corner, attacking premium positions. Essentially, is what Poles was getting at. So it's good to hear that he's not, resting on his offensive line laurels that he just threw a bunch of late resources at last year. So That's good to see. We'll see how he deploys all of these assets.
You got to think he always knew that he was only going to hit once or twice on all those offensive linemen he drafted at the end of the draft last year.
Yeah, you would think so. I mean, he's no dummy. He went to Boston College.
Does it worry you at all how highly he speaks of Braxton Jones?
No, and I thought his reason why was great. You know, being a small school guy going through the entire process of the draft, combine, minimal preseason or off-season program with an NFL team, and then starting every single game, playing every single snap, having the mental fortitude to do so, handling the ups and downs, not completely falling apart and bowing out for who he is, speaks volumes. Does he have room to grow? Yeah, and Poles admitted that he has room to grow. He hopes that he continues to work on his body and work on his technique, but absolutely not. It doesn't concern me because I don't think he praised him to the level of, yeah, he's our guy. And if, some amazing left tackle fell in our lap, we wouldn't take him. But he said that he was comfortable with where he was at and that he gave kudos to his, it's just to his season in general. So no, it wasn't concerned. I wasn't concerned.
I think that point's really huge, the offseason, because he was going since his time as a senior, getting out of school, going into pre-draft stuff. And obviously he's not going to just like sit on his ass and not exercise at all. But this time off, it's really going to be his first time off since after his junior year, because of how the draft process works and how competitive it is, trying to earn that spot and working his way through the summer and going through OTA, that sort of thing. So I think that point's going to be huge, and this time off might serve to refresh his mind and help him to get ready for a second year.
I agree. I thought that there was something that he said, that Poles said later in the press conference that I couldn't understand, and I couldn't like rattle through my Rolodex of injuries that they went through this year. But somebody asked about somebody that had gotten hurt that would be back for the spring.
Mooney.
Was it Mooney?
Yeah, it was. The questions were really hard to hear. I don't know why. But yeah,
because they never give him a microphone, and there's so much it sounds like there's a wind tunnel in there half the time. Like, what the fuck is happening in that press room? You can't hear shit.
They just need to get a press coordinator and just do it like Adam Johns, you're next. Adam Hogue, you're next. But, because they all do that scrum and they all fight and they all hate each other. But just be like, dude,
it was honestly better when it was Zoom because they did that shit. Adam Johns, you're up next, and it was a one-on-one conversation, and you could hear him.
Exactly. Yeah. Pass around a mic. You pass it back to the coordinator. You're up. It's easy.
I'm glad I'm not the only one who noticed that because that was driving me nuts. I just thought that was the way it was, but
I'm glad you figured it out because
I had to rewind it like 3 times because I was like, "Who got hurt?" And then he said, it was Mooney.
I was looking at the transcripts. I was trying to hear over Courtney Cronin's loud ass. I couldn't understand what the fuck somebody had said, and the biggest takeaway from me was that Poles was very impressed with him and thought he was a much better football player than he did when he came in the building, which was like one of the best takeaways.
Mooney. So
Mooney.
We know that. I guess Poles mentions cornerback as the premium position, and he notes it as positions that need to be addressed. I mean, do you think he doesn't think highly of maybe Kyler Gordon or Jalen Johnson? Do you think maybe they just need more help in that room? What do you guys think? I mean, I
think that was the blanket premium position default Poles type of answer. I mean,
right.
I think he does a good job of like giving you a lot when sometimes, but I think like when it comes to strategic plays, he's very guarded, and very coached up, I guess, if you would, or articulate about bullshit talk. So when he's speaking about players that he likes, he's glowing and he loves to talk about that kind of thing. But when you ask him about like, what are you going to do with the number 1 pick? Oh, well, we're going to give you 700 different answers, so you have no real fucking clue what we're going to do.
Right. And to be honest, it's dumb to even ask those questions because he really shouldn't be telling you anything. But to your point, Chris, when they asked him the first time they asked him, is Justin Fields going to be your guy next year? He immediately said, yeah. When they went back to the number 1 pick, he kind of slowly answered, oh, yeah, we might scout some of the other quarterbacks, but I won't do it unless I'm blown away. Like when asked about Justin, it was immediately, yeah, that's our guy. When asked about the number 1 pick, it was, go back and listen to it. When they asked him about it, he said, yeah. Like
but he said the way he said, yeah, because I caught that too. And the way he said, yeah, it was almost like he was like saying, yeah, I understand the question. And then he talked. But like, I'll watch it again, but I didn't take it as him like flat out saying, yeah. Like, yes, he's our guy.
Maybe I misunderstood, but he did say it in like immediately.
He did say, yeah. So like, but then like one of the funniest questions was that dude at the end who was like, and that dude always asks these fucking asinine 5 questions in one, where he's just like, do you think
he was like, I'm confused.
He's like, do you think it's important to have a wide receiver that's an elite talent? Do you is that guy in the room, or is that guy in the wide receiver room now? If he's not, are you willing to go get him? Like he asked like 5 questions, and Poles is like, yeah, that's a lot. Then everybody laughed. So
speaking of that, we should go into this point where it was reported tonight. It's something that we probably already knew, but DeAndre Hopkins is looking to get traded and also looking for a new contract. If you're the Bears, you have all the space, all these picks.
Oh my God.
Do you do the trade for that kind of wide receiver?
Oh my God. The best wide receiver in the league, in my opinion. I mean, yeah, he fell off a little the last year or two.
I don't even think so. I think it was bad QB play, but the thing you do got to be worried about is obviously the age. You're going to pay him all this money, which is no issue for the Bears now, but you still don't want to get caught in a bad contract. And 2, he's one PED suspension away from being suspended for a very long time.
Well, and that's the other thing, right? Is you start taking PEDs, there's a reason for it. Yeah, there's a reason for it. Like, is he trying to extend or trying to heal from something that's, that he's beat up from? Like Joe said, you stop, things start to break down quicker. He's 30.
He'll be 31 next year. Yep.
I am honestly not interested unless you're flat out giving him away, which we've seen.
Second round pick.
No.
You give him what? I would give a second round pick for him.
No fucking way. Not a chance. I'm seriously talking bargain basement, bottom of the barrel type shit, like 4th or later. Like
we've seen a second rounder for Claypool.
Claypool is also 24.
Get your proven one for Justin. You get to see. I would do it, to be honest with you. I realistically think
I would too.
I think he could be had for a 3, to be honest with you. But I would overpay if I was the Bears, just because I think I don't think they're going to address the wide receiver room if they don't do it in a trade, to be honest with you.
The free agent class is terrible.
You don't think they'll draft one? You don't think they'll draft one?
Not high.
I think they'll draft one in the mid rounds. Yeah, I don't think they'll draft one high.
You're not getting Jackson Smith and Jigba. You're not getting Jordan Addison. You're not getting Quentin Johnston.
I would love them to, but I don't think they'll do it.
No, yeah, exactly. So you use that second or third round pick on arguably a top 5 receiver in the league, depending on your perspective. I loved him while he was at Houston. Kind of disappeared in Arizona, but I think that's just because you play on the Cardinals, and I don't like to watch the Cardinals at all. But
I don't even think he's disappeared. It's just the quarterbacks he's been playing with have been terrible. But Chris, I mean, to your points, he is.
But Justin Fields will put it up for him. Justin Fields will just give him chances. Oh,
I would do it. I would do it as well. If it's a third, which I think will be the price. Chris, would you do it for a third? You said no to a 2. Would you do it for a 3?
Come on down. Would you do it for 3? Not for 1, for 2, for 3, for 3.
Let's just hypothetically say you give up a 3 and you have to extend him 4 more years till he's age 36, and you give him $30 million per year. Would you do it?
Fuck no. That's a big fuck no for me.
No,
No.
I don't even know. Realistically, what would he make? Maybe I don't
That's
know,
a
maybe.
that's a below it at your asshole kind of deal. Fuck that.
I mean, right now he's making 19 million base with a 5.5 million signing bonus and he's making close to 30 million now. So hypothetically, say 25, 30 million, 4 years.
No.
I'm doing it.
No. Man, I'm
For a
glad you
third?
don't run the Bears. No way.
And that's why we'll have Mooney as our number one next year.
Because you don't run the
Gross.
Bears? Yeah, okay.
Gross. That's
Yeah,
terrible.
Super gross.
Gross would be going into next year with Darnell Mooney as your wide receiver 1. That'd be a crime.
I agree, Joe. And I just
If you want to get the most out of Kmet, you go get a wide receiver 1, and then you get the most out of Kmet and Mooney because you take a little even more pressure off of them. And Kmet was great this year. You guys were giving it to me in the text, and like I sort of play character, but like I like the guy. I do.
I sort of play character.
Yeah, maybe I play a character a lot here, but no, like I think he's a good tight end, and he had a good second year. So like, you want to get the most out of him, you want to get the most out of Justin Fields, you want to get the most out of this offense. You go get you a wide receiver 1 that's a top 5 receiver in the league.
I mean, to be fair to Chris's point, I feel like this would be if you put Paul up, this would probably be a pretty close to 50-50 split on guys who want Hopkins and guys who think he's too old. So I think each side has an argument, to be honest. I just don't know if a better option will present itself, and that's where I'm coming from.
Exactly.
Chris, you're pondering.
No, he's still not doing it. He's still not doing it.
I'm looking at
Yeah, I know he's still not doing it, but he's pondering.
No, I'm just like looking at so the average age for peak wide receivers is 27 years old. So the distribution of peak seasons after 31 drops significantly. Like significantly, even more than 30. It drops by probably at least 25% at 30, which is already down 33% from 29. So I just don't think it's I mean, like Randy Moss had a good season at 30. Marvin Harrison had a good season at 30. Those guys are Hall of Famers. D-Hop might be up there, man. I love D-Hop.
He's a Hall of Famer too.
I don't know, man. I don't know if you put him in the same category as those two.
You're probably right.
So I guess a follow-up question to that is, speaking in the same breath, if the Colts were to offer you DeForest Buckner,
nope.
Are you doing the deal?
For what? Like what else? Like why is he in there?
Or to move up in the draft.
Well, I understand. What else is he in there addition to?
Let's just say you're getting the Colts first next year and a mid-round pick this year, plus DeForest Buckner.
And 4.
You're getting 4 next year's first, a mid-round pick.
Yes.
Say a 3 or 4 and Buckner.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
At that point, you're valuing him at almost like a 4th round, 5th round pick, because like what would you get in place of DeForest Buckner if you just got draft capital?
All right.
You wouldn't be getting like.
Let me rework the deal. Let's say you get 4 Buckner in next year's first, but no mid-round pick.
So, like, basing it off of that Indianapolis Stars comment where it was 4, a second, and next year's first, now you're putting Buckner at a 2nd round pick, and no, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, I'd probably do that for Buckner, but I guess that hinges on free agency, but if they didn't get a 3 technique, I would do that.
So, and that is going to be the biggest thing.
Payne
is free agency is going to dictate a ton of
Daron
this.
Payne.
So, like, the other thing you can think about is, trading down. So, like, I think the trade down scenario that's super interesting is somehow acquiring 2 firsts this year, right? And if it's not Houston plus 12, it's not as great, which I don't think Houston would do that. But, well, you never know, man. They could be super desperate. Who knows? But, I don't see a double trade down if you go to 4. If your first move down is to 4, like let's say you go down to 2, right? And it's not 2 and 12, it's 2 in next year's first, and pretty much that's it. I'm fine with that because then you're still controlling fucking the forever land.
Yeah.
Because then you could trade with Indy, because you could tell Indy, hey, there's a bunch of people behind you that want this 2 pick. There's people in front of you that could want this 2 pick because you want to get up there, and then you move from 2 to 4, and then you're really cooking.
Well, I
Right?
do think it's possible for the Bears to do a double trade down if their first move was to 4, just because you still have the Panthers, the Seahawks, the Raiders, teams like that behind you. So it just
Yes.
depends really if you can
However,
drive
this
up a
is-
bidding war.
go ahead.
But that's just going to depend on how teams view Levis. Like the only situation where that would work is if Seattle really liked him, they were going to take him at 5.
Well, my counterpoint there is no longer what other teams want. It's what the Bears want. So, do you value a trade down more than Carter or Anderson at that point?
Right.
Which,
In my
that's-
opinion, no.
that's where-
I
yeah.
think not. That's where I
That's
draw
where-
the line.
Right. See, I think
How about
get
you
a haul-
guys?
That's where I think you get a haul for 1. If you go from 1 to 4, and if you get 3 first going from 1 to 4, I'm happy with that. I'm good. Give me Anderson or probably Carter.
Mr. Anderson.
And then
I'm not gonna
move on.
I would really like 3 first, but going from 1 to 4, my realistic expectation is 2 first. And if they get a third, I'll think that's fantastic.
I completely agree. Like I said, the biggest thing is going to be desperation and competition.
Right. And it's stuff that we can't comprehend here. We don't know what they think of these guys. And
Right.
in an ideal land, 3 first is the perfect scenario. And if you get Carter Anderson at 3 first, oh my God, you made out like a bandit.
I think that for me is how San Diego won the Rivers Eli trade, is because San Diego not only got Rivers at 4 or wherever they took him, they also got a fuck ton of picks, So you get a guy that's going to change your franchise or be a big piece of your franchise going forward. Plus you get a bunch of assets on top of that. That's the golden goose right there.
Right. Realistically, though, I think 2 first, even I would be happy if they got 2 first and just say this year's second and next year's second move back to 4. I'd probably be happy with that. I mean, like we said earlier, there's just endless freaking scenarios ranging from the Bears taking to a quarterback to trading back multiple times to whatever. I mean, just unimaginable stuff. We've talked about some veterans here, some guys on the trade block, Hopkins, maybe Buckner. It seems like, Chris, you are not on the side of bringing in these guys who are past 30, perhaps, unless it's just tremendous value, right?
Right.
I'm on the flip side of that. I mean, I think Hopkins would be amazing. Buckner is a different story depending on how free agency goes. And before we sign off here tonight, I think this is a kind of a good final talking point is free agency. I mean, the Bears have the most cap in the NFL by far. What is it, like 120 million?
Right.
So I crunched some numbers the other day. Per the new CBA, the Bears have to spend 175 million on top of what they have on the books already in this offseason.
Ooh, you know what they could do? They could
And
do
to put-
something. They could do something similar to what the Texans did, and essentially buy a draft pick. So take on a shit contract and get a draft pick out of it. So do you remember when the Texans traded Osweiler to the Browns and got their second rounder and Osweiler just to take that shit contract?
Yeah.
The Bears could do that. They have a
Yeah,
fucking ton
definitely.
of money.
So to put that 175 million in perspective, I don't know where that stands in NFL history. It's probably close to the top. that any team's ever had to spend in an offseason.
According to Over the Cap, the Bears have $118 million in cap space.
Correct, but the cash they have to spend is different than cap space, because how this works is the Bears have to spend $175 million cash this year, which means that could be tied up in guarantees or roster bonuses, which basically get divided evenly among the length of a contract, but go on the books all in 1 year. So say they give a guy $100 million bonus. It basically goes against your dead cap at $25 million per year, but counts as $100 million up front.
I'm following you. Yeah, you explained that well.
So that's guaranteed. So they have to kind of manipulate their contracts in that way. But the Jags last year spent $120 million in free agency. We all talked about how nuts they went. I mean, the Bears are going to have to send out some serious money this offseason to even meet that. The ramifications of that is basically the Bears have to pay that money out regardless. But it's basically just they lose money. They have to pay like every player on the roster between that salary space in the CBA, which I think runs from 2021 to 2023. So any player on the roster among that time would basically split the money that they don't spend, essentially. So they have a shit ton of money to spend this offseason. So it's going to be insane.
And Poles addressed that as well, saying that they wouldn't go bananas. They would
but they have to, or else that's lost money.
Yeah, but I think what he's saying is they're not going to overvalue a player.
Definitely.
Whether or not they spend, they could still spend the money elsewhere, right? They could extend people. So
they could extend people.
They could extend Coles. They could extend Cole Kmet. They could extend Mooney.
Johnson.
They could even extend Fields at this point, but I don't think they will. I think they're going to do one more year before they evaluate that. So yeah, whether or not they have to spend the money doesn't mean they have to be stupid,
Correct. But I think at the end of the day, they will have to overpay for some guys just to even meet that threshold.
And that's fine. There's plenty of
plus the high draft pick
out there.
It's going to be close to $30 million in draft capital, probably.
There's plenty of needs out there. We have defensive tackle needs. We have defensive end needs. We have linebacker needs. We could probably sign another corner. We obviously have wide receiver needs. We could add a tight end as opposed to a wide receiver that's a pass catcher like Dalton Schultz or somebody else. So there's lots of ways that they could spend the money intelligently and not have to, and like you said, they could structure it to where they dump it all up front and then not have to use it later. That's another way they could do it. I just front load a bunch of contracts.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. This is Chris. Is this the biggest offseason you've seen the Bears have in your lifetime?
Absolutely.
Ooh. Wow.
Well, the Peppers year was pretty fucking nuts. They brought 4 big free agents in, including some tight end that had no business in the NFL. But
the Mitch year was pretty nuts too. 2018.
Right.
Roden Burton and Robinson. And I think they had a few linemen in that. That was pretty insane. But, the Bears are going to become the team that we always say is dumb every year for leading free agent spending. But they're kind of forced to. So, to your point, Chris, hopefully they pick the right contracts to dole out here.
Yeah, I don't see Poles being reckless, I guess is the word I'm looking for.
No, I totally get it. But at a certain extent, he might have to get a little reckless to get that number.
Add a couple mil here, a couple mil there,
Definitely won't be like last offseason, that's for sure.
Is so many people, look at contracts in the current market and they don't think about what it really is future market, right?
Right.
So, we're all pissing and moaning about paying a we say Khalil Mack $22 million, and that's a freaking bargain now, right? Or paying Roquan $20 million, which might have been a bargain down the line. I don't know if Roquan.
What did he
was
just
worth
got
it.
paid? He just got paid.
He just got,
Yeah.
I think 20. Like I think it was
Yep.
5 for 100. It was like 20 exactly.
Highest paid linebacker in NFL history.
I mean, so what though?
Good for him.
I mean,
All right,
like,
good for him.
To me, you look at percentage of cap, right? So, yeah, he's the highest paid linebacker in history, but is that per the cap? Because he's like 10% of the cap. I don't know what like the highest paid linebacker was, 10 years ago in percentage to the cap. I mean, it could have been 15%. And to me, that's more of an indicator of not necessarily value, but like how insane the contract was. You know what I'm saying? Because
Definitely.
like the cap. Somebody's mentioned the cap could be upwards of $225 million next year, which I think would be like a $30 million jump. I can't remember.
I saw 225 on over the cap. I think had it at 225 next year.
And what is it this year?
210 or around there.
Okay. I thought it was
roughly.
I thought it was like 190 something or whatever. Maybe that was last year. I know, like coming out of COVID, it dropped significantly.
It was like 185 then. $208 million last year, yeah, so roughly 210.
Yeah. So yeah, $15-17 million jump. That's a big jump.
Definitely. And luckily for the Bears, it's a decent free agent class for some of their biggest needs, offensive and defensive line. So it's going to be fun. I mean, the Bears, like you said when we opened up the show, Joe, they're going to be the talk of every major, draft coverage. The Bears are picking first. What are they going to do? They have all this money to spend. People dog on the Bears all year, but then all of a sudden it's like they have the keys to the car here in the off season of being the team in control of everything. So we'll see. I mean, this has got to be the biggest Bears off season, in our lifetime, probably for all of us. What they do this off season is going to determine, how good or bad they are for maybe the next 5 to 10 years. So we'll see.
Anything else you got tonight, Krogman?
Are we going to be a franchise like the Jaguars, or are we going to be a franchise like the Eagles?
What are the Ravens going to do after paying Roquan with Lamar Jackson just hanging out there?
Well, that's the good question, Chris, and that's when we go back to positional value. Is it worth it to give a guy like Roquan that much money when you need to pay your quarterback?
Do you think Orlando Brown will come to his senses and understand he's not a left tackle?
No.
Yeah, me neither.
No.
If you give him enough money, will he give a shit?
Honestly, I feel like he wants to play left tackle. I don't know.
That's the stupidest fucking. That I don't know, man. That's just dumb. It's like, oh hey,
my daddy was a left tackle. I'm a left tackle.
That's so dumb. She's so dumb. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. So like, I could see him overspending at like. Or maybe they put money where we don't necessarily agree with, like for me specifically,
running back.
Yeah,
we're gonna pay Josh Jacobs $18 million a year.
No, paying Saquon.
Fuck yes.
But I mean, like there's a lot of D tackles out there.
Well, that's going back to our draft conversation. This is why I'm like
Deron Payne.
As much as I like Jalen Carter, and as much as people have him ranked higher. Good edge rushers frankly, they just don't hit the market. I mean, there's some decent D tackles here. I mean, Hargrave is older, but I would absolutely love Hargrave in Chicago to play 3 technique for a few years.
If you sign Hargrave and Payne, or Hargrave and like what is the kid from Denver's name? Draymond Jones. I mean, you sign both those kids. Fuck yeah, take Will Anderson. Don't be stupid.
Well, I would even take him if you sign one of them. I mean, I just think edge rusher is so much harder to find
I just don't think it's as impactful. Like,
I agree. Well, I guess I agree to the fact that I think it's rarer to have a very disruptive D tackle. Like, I think that's super rare. But I just feel like getting your hands on an edge rusher, you're not going to do it unless you're either picking really high or drafting really high normally.
Well, yeah, we saw
Or picking really high or trading for a D tackle for a DN.
We saw the Saints restructure Michael Thomas. You know they're going to want to keep Marcus Davenport.
I don't know if they will. He's had a really bad year there, honestly, or he's been hurt a lot. So they might let him. Davenport's one of those guys that's intriguing, but he's flashed, but he's never really lived up to his potential. I mean, he'll probably get paid better than he's performed, but he had one season with 9 sacks, and other than that, he's been hurt and inconsistent.
Yeah.
And then there's Clowney.
We get
No.
Clowney's not available.
Yeah, he is. He's a free agent.
He will be, but we don't want him.
But no, Ngakwe is probably the guy you want out of anyone. I've never really thought Clowney was. I've always thought Clowney was a good football player. I never really thought he was as good as he was billed to be.
Fuck, dude, that play that made him famous is still. Whew.
In the backfield, just knocks the dude's head right off, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of options in free agency. Yeah, you're right. Clowney is. He's 30 years old. Holy shit. Man, that makes me feel old. Holy crap.
You are old.
Yeah. Aren't you older than Javion Clowney, their friend?
I am older than Jadeveon Clowney.
You're old too then.
You're right.
Clownfish.
You're football old.
Clownfish.
You're exactly right. I am on retirement.
But you want to bring in Hopkins though, so
yeah, he's 3 years younger than me.
Puna Ford is another one. I just love the dude's name.
Puna.
I think Davenport or Ngakwe is the Bears' best bet, but
on an edge rusher.
I mean, Anderson.
That's pretty much all you have for edge rushers coming.
I just think
on the market.
I don't know. The more I thought about Anderson and his size, like Von Miller was the same size coming out. Von Miller is very similar. So, Joe, what do you think? You watch Will Anderson all the time. Do you think he could play with his hand in the dirt every play? I mean, he played with his hand in the dirt at Bama sometimes, and he was fine.
A lot. He played with his hand in the dirt a lot.
I think he's one of those guys where.
But he's going to take some further developing. He's going to have to develop a second or third, a couple extra pass rushing moves.
Von Miller was just like that out of Texas A&M.
He's just
very similar,
physical freak.
But the thing about him is he works his ass off. He's got a great head on his shoulders. He does he's not cocky. He's about the team first. He's very well spoken. I mean, I don't know. There is definitely something to be said about a lot of these Bama football players and how much they just want to play football and not care about the extracurricular shit. I mean, we've seen, 3 of those guys played in the bowl game that they didn't have to play in, but it's a bowl game on a big stage. And you got Bryce Young, you got Will Anderson, you got the running back. I mean, it's just different.
Well, you touched on running back in the first little bit about running backs in this offense, and I don't want to be homerism, but I do think that Jahmyr Gibbs, second or third round,
nasty.
Yeah, he could be a fit.
I think he'll be the second. I think he'll be the second running back taken. I think he's a great fit for a team like the Eagles, who are picking with their own pick at the end of the first round.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's a different story. We can go off on a complete tangent on the draft, but I don't know. Chris, do you have any concluding thoughts on this? We touched on a lot.
I'm excited. I'm pumped. I mean, this could set us up to be. I'm also fucking nervous, honestly.
We're gonna screw it up. I'm confident.
You know,
with
great power comes great responsibility, and I don't know if we're ready for that responsibility.
Exactly.
We'll see if Ryan pulls up to the task. And I guess quickly before we log off, it should be noted that Ian Cunningham has multiple GM interviews lined up. It would be sad to lose him after one season. One, you don't get the comp pick if he loses. Two, he's a great football mind, and I would really like to have him around for this offseason. So hopefully Mr. Cunningham selfishly stays with the Bears for at least one more year.
I mean, what like he hasn't done anything this year with the Bears to make him that desirable.
Dude, it's crazy. I don't know. Some of these guys just rise through the ranks. I saw something on Twitter. It's like it's probably a Cardinals fan. And he was just like, "Oh yeah, this Cunningham guy. Like he was like listing off all the things he did for the Eagles, and he's like he went to the Bears and he cleared cap space."
Well, that was hard to do, honestly. I mean, they had a lot of dead shit, so that's an accomplishment.
That's all I got for this week. I don't know. We're gonna have some sweet guests this off season. We're gonna be talking about the draft, and it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Let's fucking do it.
Bear down, Chicago Bears. Make every play clear the way to victory. Bear down, Chicago Bears. Put up a fight with the might so fearlessly. We'll never forget the way you thrilled the nation. With your T formation, bear down, Chicago Bears, and let them know why you're wearing the crown. You're the pride and joy of Illinois, Chicago Bears, bear down.